Blog Talk Radio.
All Pro Media Group Radio showcases professionals on a daily basis. Be inspired and listen to experts from around the globe share their accomplishments with you. APMG Radio, success at its finest. You're listening to APMG Radio. I'm Lucy, and today I'm pleased to introduce our special guest, Henry Halliday. Henry, thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
So, Henry, last week we talked about privacy and security. What else is happening in our homes with technology?
Oh, funny you should ask. Anyway, we certainly have dealt a great deal with security and knowing what's going on with respect to potential violation of our home space. But there are a lot of other things that that I've been interested in, and technology has provided us some insight into that in terms of how do we monitor what's going on in our home, and how does it help us tell us what's going on with respect to heating, appliances, electricity. The issue I think I'd like to address first is to talk about smart thermostats. That's become sort of an industry buzzword now. We all have had thermostats in our house, whether electric, gas, or oil, but the newest ones give us a better measure of how can we control our energy use from a heating standpoint. This has particularly become important as the rates have gone up. We have a lot of people who aren't home during the day and don't have to maintain a temperature of 70 to 72 degrees. And also at night when we're sleeping, we don't have to be that warm, so we'd like to control it. And smart thermostats have given us a way of doing that that's a lot more convenient. Currently, I have a system in our home that has a thermostat that's smart enough to be able to set temperatures which are depending on whether we're home or away, whether it's during the week or weekends. And these are pretty convenient because it does help us control the cost. Admittedly, the initial cost of an investment may seem higher than you might like, but it's going to pay off as our power companies decide that they need to increase our rates, or that the gas companies decide that, yeah, we got a lot of gas, but we're going to charge more for it. So those things that you want to keep in mind, and look for the qualities in the thermostat that gives you some flexibility but are not difficult to use. And I think I've seen a lot more improvement in usability, if you will. Also, with respect to home energy, as I mentioned before in our discussion of solar power, you can now have your thermostat, your electric information through the power meter, provide you some information on how is your home consuming power, both during the day and the night. And if you happen to have a solar system, it provides you that information also. Again, there's been some issues on privacy with respect to this monitoring, but we're going to hear a lot of that from now on, since it seems to be a topic worth discussing, whether it's valid or not. We also have seen appliances that have a lot more user-friendly controls on how we're controlling heat, whether it's in a washer and a dryer or a dishwasher, or even in terms of local heating, local appliances that provide you heat right at your use, like in providing for a tub or a shower. And the question is there, how much information do we want? How much supplemental things? Do we really need a television in our refrigerators so we can watch a program? Well, that may be a side there. The other thing that's coming along technology-wise is a wearable display. We're seeing initially something like that in the phones attached to a wristwatch to give us a Dick Tracy type feature. We're going to also see displays that are flexible, and the first flexibility is going to be in a cell phone, but they're now looking at whether I can have a display actually that I wear on my wrist, which would display even direct connection to our home Wi-Fi system or our phone, or provide us information of what's going on in our home. So I think they're going to see a lot of things that are moving in the direction to monitoring more of the things around us. Some are important, some are not.
Which
what about,
ones?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Henry. I was just going to say, out of those technologies that you just mentioned, which ones do you think are the most important for people to consider?
Well, I think that energy is going to be continued important as we go along, and that's important. The status of our appliances, that's probably lesser important, maybe fun, but I don't know. It's certainly not a necessity. What's happening with respect to our home in terms of security, we've talked about that. That's important. And whether from a protection standpoint. And we'll talk a little bit about that later when I get into, in this section of status and control, where our appliances may be getting too smart in terms of predicting what it is we're going to need for food. That may be interesting, but certainly is not a necessity. Heating and control is going to be important because that's where our money's going a great deal part of the year. And the better control we have over it to accommodate the way we live is going to be important. Video monitoring from a security standpoint, being able to see what's happening in your home when you're not there, or even when you're there, what's happening around you. So many of the homes now are built right next to each other and have very narrow walk spaces or very small yards, but people are taking advantage of that, and so we need to know what's going on around us. From a water standpoint, not so much the usage, but that's going to be important, but also potential water damage for those people who have basements that have a water problem, monitoring what's happening there. From a fire and carbon monoxide standpoint, we see a lot of deaths that are taking place from carbon monoxide, so we need to do those monitorings. And along those lines, a way of doing that is through a frequency bands, some that share with our cell phones, some that are not, to take advantage of a low-power means of understanding what our sensors can do and make batteries last. One of those is called Z-Wave. The other is called Zigbee. These are low-rate communication systems that talk to sensors, to TV camera, to video cameras, to other things that communicate in what's called a mesh structure. What is a mesh? Well, think of a spider web, and every place that a thread crosses another one, that could be a potential sensor. So that if you're away from one sensor, but it's close to another one from the main controller, these guys can communicate with each other so a message finally gets back to the control. The advantage of this is low power. It's very secure in the fact that the messaging can be very brief but only understood by the controller, and at the same time gives us a way of dispersing sensors throughout our home and get them all to talk together as a unified set. I originally got interested in sensors from a security standpoint and looked at installing communication over my home electric wiring. The problem I had is that my house was split into two parts, and that went separate its own way, so I couldn't get one half to talk to the other half. So Zigbee solves that problem by going to a wireless system whereby if I have a wall that's in the way, I can put a sensor that can see around that wall to another sensor which is in another part of the house. And from that standpoint, it takes advantage of a low-power system, low communication rate, so it preserves batteries. At the same time, a lot of the original alarm systems had battery elements and doors, but they wouldn't give you the status of those batteries until they failed, and you wouldn't necessarily know that. Well, Zigbee can status what's taking place in the power, so it can monitor and alert you of a low battery if that's what the issue, in addition to performing their other functions like doors open, and just recently a smoke and CO2 alarm has been made available that you can now get remote alerts on your smoke. Whether you're in the house, you get a siren, but at the same time, if you're out of your house, it'll send a message to your smartphone and tell you, hey, you got a problem. The advantage of that is that you don't call the fire department alert unless you want to. We've had a lot of issues with respect to false alarms and the fact that the fire departments and police get irritated if they respond too many times, and it may fine you. Well, now you can say, well, all right, suppose I have door alarms and I have smoke alarms. If you had then a video system, you could then look at that and alert you to say, yep, I've really got a problem. I better call 911 and get someone to my house. So from this standpoint, the use of a low-powered, low communication rate, because we don't need to be sending video like we do over our cell phones, and at the same time it preserves the batteries. The sensors are not going to transmit unless they have a reason, like a door was opened or their smoke was sensed, or in the case of water sensors, they would let you know that, hey, I've got water in the basement that I'm not supposed to have. I better go check it out. So there's a lot of advantage to that sort of monitor and control. From an entertainment standpoint, we're facing a lot of entertainment, whether it's from audio, through a music system, or in television. And television now is going even further into a way to attract our money. In many cases, it's worth expansion in how many pixels we have on our TV, but in many cases, it may be difficult to tell. If you have a really large screen, say 55 inches and up in the diagonal, then the increased resolution helps. Obviously, if I've only got a 12 or 15-inch display that I maybe use in the kitchen, you aren't going to see that. So you get sort of a judgment on your pocketbook and also what kind of entertainment do you want. More and more of the televisions now are going to being able to connect to the Internet. And so we are now splitting our time. Are we going to watch television or are we going to watch something on YouTube? This is an entertainment that just increases our choices of what we have, but at the same time may divert us from other things like reading serious literature or talking with our companions in our home or our children. So we got to be a little careful on how we're going to do this. Remote viewing is becoming increasingly important. If you have a laptop or iPhone, and how much time do you spend talking on the phone, or are you visiting others, or watching entertainment movies? This stretches into gaming. Games now have increased their occupancy of our time by providing us through Xbox, PlayStation, and Wii many ways of getting additional games. But there always still are going to be PCs, and now the iPads and iPhones have games on them too that we have to take advantage of by maybe ignoring them sometimes because they can be really significant time users. And keep this in mind with respect to streaming media, which is another way of getting entertainment into the field, if you will. When I say field, I mean remote from where we typically be in our home being entertained. So these are all important features, but again, we're going to have to make some pretty smart decisions so that we're spending our time either as wisely as we can and leaving time for fun.
Excellent. Well, we're going to take a break now because when we come back, we're going to be speaking about technology outside the home. I'm Lucy, and my guest today is Henry Halliday. We'll be back straight after the commercial break.
Hey, Kate, how's things with the new business?
Oh, hey, John. Thanks for asking. It's going really well. Hang on a minute. I just got to retweet something a new client just said.
You know, I just don't understand how you have so many followers, not to mention the likes on your Facebook page.
And I can't even get over the hits on my website, too. You know, everything's going great, but I'll tell you something, John. I'm not doing it alone. You want to know the answer?
Of course I do. I want a successful business like yours.
All Pro Media Group.
Huh?
It's a full-service marketing and PR company that assists businesses of all sizes. Basically, what they do is transform your business into a brand through their marketing and network connections. John, imagine having a personal campaign designed just for you and then being able to reach hundreds of thousands of potential clients and business professionals worldwide. Just go to allpromediagroup.com for more information, and you could be reaching the next level of success too.
Kate, you're the best.
No, I'm not. All Pro Media Group is. ATS Computers. They're a full-service technology company open since 1994, servicing commercial and residential clients. They strive on their reputation with the community. Their website is www.atscomptech.com, and their number is 631-474-4674. Where can you buy unique and beautiful gifts that will be remembered forever? What can you buy the friend who has everything? Well, it's simple, and it's only a click away. Just go to rageandeden.co.uk for a selection of worldwide Gothic and fantasy art from world-leading artists. Choose from the exquisite figurines, chic jewelry, amazing prints, or even one of the trendy t-shirts that are bound to make a statement wherever you go, even if it is just to the local supermarket. Visit rageandeden.co.uk. Every garden has a corner in the shade.
You're listening to APMG Radio with my special guest, Henry Halliday. So before the break, we were talking about technology within the home. Henry, tell us about the technology that's taking place outside the home.
All right. Thanks, Lucy. One of the things that we need to consider when we're outside the home is our recreation, but also our basic transportation. And just recently, I heard an announcement that by 2016, they hope to have in our cars what's called V2V. That's vehicle-to-vehicle communication. And this is a significant change in the way that we have our cars run on the roads. What they want to do is to be able to give us a non-distracted way of preventing accidents by having cars talk to each other to say, one, where are you going? What direction, what's your velocity, and are you a potential danger to the path I'm on? This is exciting, but at the same time, I see many challenges coming up to try and, one, have this established in a couple years because of the, if you think about the difficulty in making decisions based on computer to computer talking to each other, it's one thing to have them static. It's another thing to have them in motion. And when I think of hundreds of cars converging on a given spot, you say, boy, those algorithms, the computations they have to make a decision are going to be awfully tough to say what's really a problem and what isn't, and how do I avoid if I have multiple vehicles impinging on me. Anyway, it's kind of exciting, and it's going to be fun to watch how they make up the laws, the legalistic features that have to be involved with this. And it's just something that you got to keep in mind in cars as we go ahead. We already have protection with respect to blind spot monitoring and radar for collision avoidance. So these are things that take place in our recreation, which a lot of our time is spent in cars, not just going to work. With respect to technology and materials, bicycles are now becoming another means of important transportation and recreation. And we're seeing that they're building them out of carbon fibers, just like they're putting into airplanes. We also found that there are ways of using bamboo to make them more natural, and this has become a growing industry in not only the United States, but in other parts in the world. So we have these things that are coming up. With respect to trains and planes, we're seeing a lot of technology taking place. Part of it is good with respect to providing pilots better assistance in how they fly, but has raised new issues on are we becoming too reliant on technology. Trains is another place where I think we're going to see more technology, not just in monitoring their positions, but maybe collision avoidance, because we've seen a lot of incidents lately on where speeds have been violated, where they have train may not be paying attention through cell phones, just like we have issues in cars. So I think we're going to see more questions on implementing train incidents with respect to that, and also with respect to planes. And part of that has to do with auto navigation. We're talking about cars steering themselves, but also might also be important for trains to be more automatic in terms of maintaining correct speeds, monitoring the conditions that are around them, and other things such as out in the West Coast, we've got issues with respect to avalanches caused by mudslides. So things like that can be important and will be part of our overall issues with respect to our recreation. With respect to thinking about our safety, one of the areas that I think we don't have enough technology, and we've seen that recently, is with respect to airborne illnesses, such as take place at these cities at sea. The boats now, the ships have become just giant cities, 5,000-10,000 people on it at once. And obviously we have to begin to apply some technology so that we don't have hundreds of people getting ill from something that we know what it is. We obviously don't know enough about to prevent that. The local and remote monitoring of our homes and our businesses while we're out and about is going to be increasingly important, especially those things that are not necessarily well populated, so that we don't have to worry about things that we can't control, but we need to know what's important. We also are going to have more and more issues with respect to spectrum overutilization. Can we have all of these things that are talking to each other and potentially having interference with respect to how are we going to prevent them from interfering, or how are we going to keep them from being monitored in a way we not necessarily want? Technology has also helped in our ability to expand our knowledge, to aid us in learning. More and more communities and universities are making their courses available remotely. And this includes libraries, where a lot of our documentation now that used to be in hardcover is now available in digital form, and that makes it available where we can learn where we want to, rather than have to go to special places to be able to do that learning. We have certainly expanded the amount of online degree courses and degree programs that are available, in addition to additional training and knowledge expansion. I think we always need to keep in mind that our entire lives we're learning, and if there are better ways to do that, or more convenient ways of doing it, that's an important role that I think technology has to take, whether it's through our phones, our iPads, our PCs. They're very important communication means, and we need to take advantage of those and fit some of that learning into our free time. We can't be, as I said, our nose to the grindstone all the time. And some of the things which have to do with art and music and literature can be expanded through a great many available online courses and or opportunities. In addition, DVDs are an important way of getting some fidelity without occupying the airways. And there are a number of organizations that publish not only documentations that are technical, but also entertainment and learning standpoint. And these are things I think we need to continue to look at as ways of keeping us abreast of not only technology, but other ways of expanding our knowledge. Not all of us can afford to travel around the world, but through current technology and the fidelity through which we can have sound and video gives us a good opportunity to experience some of the world features that we wouldn't necessarily be able to get unless we spend a lot of money and time traveling abroad. So I think everyone should keep that in mind as they look at technology in terms of how is it going to help me expand my general view of the world and also technology itself.
Excellent. Well, we are coming to the end of the show, Henry, and it was interesting to hear both what's taking place within our homes and also outside our homes. What can we expect to discuss on our next show?
Well, I think what I'd like to handle now is what is happening in the raw materials and medical fields with respect to technology when we have our next session in the following week.
Brilliant. And how can people contact you if they have any questions?
They can they can send me an email, henryhalliday@earthlink.net, or they can go to my website. We're about in the process of being able to send email there to henryhalliday.com.
Well, thank you again. It's always a pleasure having you on, Henry, and I look forward to our next show together.
And thank you for your help, Lucy.
You're welcome. You've been listening to APMG Radio with my special guest, Henry Halliday. This show and many others can be found at allpromediagroup.com. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Lucy, and you've been listening to APMG Radio.
All Pro Media Group Radio showcases professionals on a daily basis. Be inspired and listen to experts from around the globe share their accomplishments with you. APMG Radio, success at its finest.